All righty. What's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Longhorn Fan Battle Podcast. We just wanted to give our instant reaction to yesterday's game. Of course, Texas goes into College Station, wins a game 17-7. Really, the score doesn't. Again, just another game where the score really doesn't indicate how dominant Texas was. And Steve Sarkisian talks about it in his post game press conference, where he felt like the offensive line and especially the defensive line really truly dominated this game. Texas is now 11-0 on the road since 2022 when they lost at Oklahoma State. Just simply an unreal. If you look at that road record and see the environments that they've gone into since that Oklahoma State game,
Yep.
that record is really impressive. Um, and also, not just the record there, but also this is the first time since 2008 that Texas has beaten OU, A&M, and Arkansas in the
Right.
same season. So Sark is making his mark in the conference. Texas is making their mark in the conference, and now you know just like we predicted, right? We
Yep.
said this Texas team would go 11-1, and they'd be in Georgia, in Atlanta, playing Georgia, and
Right.
this is where we are. Maybe not the way we thought it would happen.
Yeah. I
Uh,
thought it would have been a closer game. I thought Kentucky would have been the loss because I was assuming that Texas would overlook Kansas
yeah,
going into the holiday season and against Georgia. I'm sorry, overlook. They would overlook A&M going into the holiday season, or I'm sorry, I'm messing that up again. Overlook Kentucky going into the holiday season, looking towards A&M, just
yeah,
like I think A&M did Auburn, where they weren't paying attention, and then they got into a situation where they were really had an opportunity to win that game, and then they didn't. They blew. A lot of
they blew
things
that game
happened in that.
multiple times. Yeah, they blew that game multiple times, and
Yeah,
and they blew that game in regulation and not just overtime, and then having to. Quick question: what do you think about the new overtime?
I love it.
You like the 2 point conversion back to back after two overtimes?
Absolutely love it.
I think it's actually really cool. I think it's short. It not only shortens the game, it brings a lot more strategy to the game because now
Yeah,
it's like you got one shot at this on both ends.
yeah.
Uh, and I found it interesting that the Georgia Tech coach, just quickly to go to that Georgia Tech game, maybe he didn't realize it or he didn't want to use his timeouts.
But he
He
didn't
was Kirby
utilize it.
Smart was waiting for him to line up and then call the timeout so he could have the right personnel out there.
Yeah,
And
because you
and,
get
and
it in
that's the
timeout.
mismatch that
You get a
happens
timeout each new
each
over.
overtime.
Yeah,
Yeah. I thought it was very fascinating. That's just goes to show like the type of coach that Kirby Smart is.
yeah,
I thought that was really really interesting that's how that played out.
yeah. That's why he's a
Um,
multiple time national champion for sure.
yeah, I mean, and that's why they're always there, right?
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll talk about um what happens there, but Tim, give me kind of your thoughts to the game last night overall.
I was impressed. I know a lot of people, especially in the media, have different thoughts. Me personally, I think when it comes to Texas coming into a hostile Kyle Field, 109,000 people, the most expensive college football game ever, by the way,
Yep.
with tickets going over $1,000. You look at that. You look at that ball game. You look at that atmosphere. You look at the rivalry, and that really, to me, puts a staple on the program. I think it's a big win for the program. I think it's a big win for the class. Okay. I think it's a big win for Quinn Ewers as well, even though he didn't put up like ridiculously blazing numbers. He still had a decent game. Of course, you want to take that pick six back. If you take that pick six back, now we're looking at 17-0. We're looking at a blowout. We're looking at a
Yeah.
shutout.
Yeah.
Offensively, A&M, they got some firepower. Reed can throw the ball.
He can.
He can definitely throw the ball. He's going to be dangerous in the future. But right now, that future that's we'll find out more next year. Now is not that time. So I credit the defense. I credit Trey Moore has
Come
come on.
along, man. He's come
He's
along
come
very
on
well.
so well, and
Yeah.
I'm really really happy that Trey has really come on, especially within the last weeks. He's made some very 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 important plays for Florida in the Florida game. He made some important plays in the Kentucky game. He makes some important plays yesterday, and I'm just really happy to see. Um, I'm just really happy to see his ascension. He was always a disruptor. He had more hurries than a lot of guys on the team at one point, until Anthony Jr. kind of stepped in and really started applying pressure to these offensive linemen. So yeah, I was really impressed. Loved the shutout defensively. I wish there wasn't a turnover.
Yeah.
Trey looks like a starting running back. He looks really, really
Wisner
good.
looked very good.
Trey Wisner looks really, really good. He's rushed for over 150 yards each game in these last 2 weeks. So he's really, really done a lot. Jaden Blue as a receiving running back, like
The
he's it
catch that Jaden Blue has in the back of the end zone, and you know what?
with
Not
his
only the
toe,
catch,
with his
the
toe down.
throw that Quinn has in the back of the end zone, and the catch that Jaden Blue has.
Yeah,
Uh, that is some freaky athletic stuff.
yeah.
And I think Trey Wisner has proven to be the bell cow. I think we're gonna have a running back battle next year.
Between three running backs.
Actually, it might just be a two running back thing, and I think you keep Jaden Blue as your receiving back. I think
Okay.
Jaden Blue's going to have to work on his fumbling over the offseason.
Yeah,
But I think if we're talking about the bell cow, right? Because Trey has turned into the bell cow for this offense.
right.
Um, Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter. I think that's going to be like who's the main guy. Sark's not going to have 1,000-yard running back for the first time in a long time, but he's
Right.
going to have 1,000 yards combined thanks to the efforts of Trey Wisner. 33 carries, 186 yards. He still averaged 5.6 yards,
Yeah, he looked really,
which is
really good.
insane for
Um,
that
we,
many touches.
we can't overlook Gibson as well. When he gets healthy, he's going to be
Oh,
really. He's
well,
going to be.
Gibson's just going to get older, right? And
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
he had a couple carries yesterday that looked very good. I mean, he actually had one carry for 4 yards, but it was a tough 4 yards. Look, Jerry Gibson's a young guy, and there's a
yeah,
lot. He's going to be a special back. I think he's going to be really good.
yeah.
I get a lot of Deontay Foreman from Jarrett Gibson when I see
He's
him
a
play.
bigger back. Yeah,
Yeah.
he runs behind his pads as well. Trey
Yes, he
runs
does.
behind his pads as well too, but Trey has a little bit more. Trey has a little bit more wiggle.
Yeah.
He has a little bit more wiggle. He's definitely he looks a little heavier. I definitely think he's a little bigger than Jaden Blue, but regardless, as a running back by committee, as a group, they look really really good. I'm really really pleased with them. I can't wait to see what else they have in store. That defensive line looked great, straight up as a unit. The entire defensive line looked great. There was hitting going left and right. Offensively, outside of maybe the one or two um, like mishaps where you get a new offensive lineman in there. Kelvin Banks Jr. goes down. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily know how serious that injury is, but he did come out in a boot. I'm just hoping it's a sprain. I don't remember seeing anything. I haven't seen anything. I don't know if you got any info on
No.
that. I imagine tomorrow during Sark's press conference we'll hear something.
Yeah.
But as far as I know for sure, it doesn't. If it was bad, we would have heard about it. If it was really, really bad, we would have heard about
It sounds like there's still no info, but based on a couple of things that I saw, it sounds like it's not as serious as they initially thought it would have been.
it.
And even if it was, I'd still think it would be. Trevor Grisby was so good yesterday. We've met Trevor. He's a good kid. He's a really good, really guy. That guy can move. For
Yeah,
as
he
big
just
as
can.
he is, I
Yeah,
was actually very, and this just goes to a couple of shout outs in the coaching staff. Obviously, Kyle Flood, great guy,
yeah,
great developer of talent. Kenny Baker deserves his flowers, man. The work that he has done with the amount of doubt that was put into him, just unsure. Like he was the assistant defensive line coach for the Miami Dolphins, right?
right.
The work he has done with this defensive line is absolutely stellar.
Mhm.
Um, seeing guys like Alfred Collins who'd been really just kind of around for a long time, and this year he's made an impact.
Yeah, Alfred Collins
Seeing,
looked great
yeah,
last night as well. He had some really big plays.
yep,
He was able to get Reed off of off balance, getting Reed to run around and letting Anthony Hill Jr. and Michael Taft and those guys really get after him. Michael Taft,
was amazing.
listen, what he did yesterday as a safety was really impressive, and I definitely think that will give him an opportunity to play at the next level. Just because he can tackle very well, and he's able to not most people they don't break down properly and they whiff on tackles. That's not what Michael Taft does.
Yeah,
That ain't what
the,
he does.
the tackle he had in the open field on Reed early in the game was very impressive
Because
because
it
Reed
was
would have broken that open.
Yeah, that could have
Um,
been an opportunity for a touchdown for
yeah,
Reed if he scoots out and
yep.
Taft misses the tackle again. That's
Vernon,
that's that was
Vernon
a
Broughton was also very impressive. Vernon Broughton late in the game had a rush on Marcel Reed that was very critical because I don't know if you remember this or not, but if Reed has an ounce, like maybe like a half a millisecond more, there's a wide receiver wide open on the back end of a
yeah,
play, and
yeah.
Broughton completely breaks that open, right? And
Mhm.
he was impressive yesterday. Forced fumble, a sack, probably plenty of rushes. We'll look at that again, but the defensive line play and the work that Kenny Baker has done for this defense and this defensive line is nothing short of impressive.
Yeah,
Now we can finally go to this thing to be like, all right, we probably won't get it when these guys are hired by Sark, but we've just got to trust that Sark knows what he's doing.
right.
Because I mean, he, in honesty, he hasn't failed us yet, right? He's got this program built. He's now we're starting to see the flowers of like the 5-7 that was very disappointing. The 8-4 that could have turned into a Big 12 title game. That second year. What we saw last year. Now, of course, year one in the SEC.
Yep,
We're going to be in Georgia,
yep,
and everything is in front of us. Listen, the way Quinn Ewers played in that first half yesterday, this team could win a national title.
yep,
That Quinn Ewers wins this team a national title
yeah,
with the backs of that defense.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
1000%. Listen, my thing with Quinn is, can you like I'm not saying that Quinn is a. I'm not judging Quinn's character. I'm not judging Quinn's mental. I'm not judging anything on that for that per se. But what I do want to see is I want to see Quinn push through the pain. So
yeah,
like yesterday, you could see that it was starting to bother him.
yep,
You could see that it was starting to bother him, and I just want to see him kind of push through that. Um, there's always a moment where things are really where you can find it and you can be like, okay, this is a magical thing. I can tell you off the top the things that come to mind when I think about the teams of yesteryear when Vince Young brought Oklahoma State down from 35, right?
yep,
He
yep.
put he put one of the defensive backs in the air. I've never seen a defensive back jump as high as he did. Believe it or not, the A&M and not the A&M game, the Rice game with Colt McCoy was the starter. When he was named the starter, and it was a lot of doubts about Colt McCoy.
Yeah,
And
you just didn't know who he was or what he was. That was
nobody
the
knew
first
who
year
he
starting
was.
though.
Nobody
Yeah.
knew what he was gonna do.
Yep.
Actually, that wasn't his first season. That was his second season. His second season coming in as a sophomore, and there was a lot of doubts because of how the first season ended.
Yep.
Colt comes in and he runs over a Rice owl to get to the end zone. I don't know if you remember that,
Do you
but
remember that? Yeah. Yeah.
he's around the 10-12 yard line. He scoots and like instead of going out of bounds, which at the time, Colt was known for doing because he was a smaller guy. You
Yep.
could tell that he put on weight. You could tell he put on muscle and he got lean. And he lowered his head and he trucked the Rice out into the end zone. And his team responded in a way that I had never seen before. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, that's a special year. That was one of the years where there was a situation where they could have ended up in the national championship. Of course, Michael Crabtree stepped in a way, but Texas eventually gets to the national championship the next year. So I'm looking for that moment with Quinn. Quinn has had it before. The Alabama win, that was a win. That was something you were like, okay, for that year, this could be something really special. I'm looking for it to happen again. Now, again, we got one more game, for the regular season. This is conference championship time. Uh, does he put the team on his back this week and say, hey, look, we gonna go down swinging? Because obviously, and we talked about this last week at nauseum, this is Quinn's last year. He's out of there.
Yeah.
We know for a fact he came out, greeted everybody at the end of senior year, took pictures,
The whole
hugged
shebang.
kids, came back out for one last hurrah. And now clearly, and that let me know because I didn't know what Quinn was going to do. Remember, there was rumors about him possibly transferring to a different school. But now that we know that Quinn is looking to transition to the NFL, um, it's time to go out swinging, dog. You got one more regular season game, or you got a conference championship, and then it's time for to put up or shut up. If you're able to put up and beat Georgia, you only got to worry about 2 games. If not, you got 3. So
Yeah.
that's I'm
I think
looking
the
for that
Quinn thing
statement,
is,
that statement play or statement win for me to be like, okay, this is a little different. Regardless, this has been probably one of the most impressive college football seasons in general as a whole. Um,
the greatest college football season of all time.
Clemson,
I called it before it started. This is going to be the greatest college football season of all time.
think about this: Clemson goes down,
Yep. Ohio State
Ohio
goes down.
State goes down,
Yep.
and then you have another situation where Alabama could possibly get back in.
I don't think they do. I think
South
South
Carolina
Carolina
looks
gets
like
in
they're
over
gonna
them.
get in.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be a very, very interesting game. I'm excited for next week.
Yep.
And next week is going to be, I would say, this week of college football for a rivalry week was probably the most emotional rivalry week I've ever seen.
There's a lot that happened, man. Lots of
Lots of stuff.
flags being staked in fields, lots of fights happening.
Right.
Obviously, Ohio State, Michigan was a fight.
Right.
There was a fight in the Florida State game. Um, they almost posted a Texas. Did you see the clip or Sark caught them almost staking the flag in A&M? He's like, no, get out of here. Like
Yeah.
we don't do that around here.
Yeah.
That's culture right there. That is Quinn Ewer. That is Sark saying that's not what we're about. We don't do stuff like that. We worry about ourselves. We celebrate with each other. We don't celebrate on other people's fields. And that's the culture. Like the culture is we are, and he says it all the time. We're enamored with ourselves. We only worry about how great we are. And
Let me ask you
that's
this.
a Nick Saban
Mhm.
staple. Nick Saban used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
We worry about ourselves, and it's not arrogant. It's not. It's just how he
How
decides
you go
to run
about
the
things.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. With what you've seen from what like as a whole, because again, the regular season's over. We go out on top of the regular season. We're getting ready to prepare for a conference championship here within the next couple of days. and all of the stuff that they said that we couldn't do have been done. They said that Texas wasn't playing physical enough. I think they proved wrong yesterday. Um, they said Texas wasn't able to handle an SEC schedule. I think Texas has proved that to be true. That they can handle an SEC schedule. And for people that think that Texas, didn't play anything but bottom feeders, those bottom feeders beat up the top feed. So, you got an Alabama losing to Oklahoma. You got a Florida beating up on a Georgia. You got a Florida beating up on a Kentucky. You got a Florida putting Georgia in its place. Like, you've got a lot of those. You got an A&M that got basically shut out and was one of the most explosive offenses in the country. You go to Arkansas. Arkansas put a whooping on LSU, and they're also one of the most explosive offenses in the country. And they limited these teams to less than 12 points a game. So now that you have all of that, you've established a running game. You've had an addition by subtraction, right? You lose Cedric Baxter, you gain, Trey Wisner. He steps up. Jaden Blue steps up in the passing game, becomes an extra receiver. Ryan Wingo steps up. He's a big playmaker. You lose a receiver in Jonte Cook, but Moore steps up and makes splashes. Literally everywhere on every wide receiver position on the field. Gunnar Held steps up and is literally Quinn's security blanket. What else could we possibly do to win over the media, to win over people that aren't happy that we are in the SEC? What else could possibly happen for Texas? What else could they possibly prove outside of beating Georgia? Because
I think that's what it is, right?
But that's the thing. Georgia's not even the end all be all. They've got multiple losses.
Listen, Georgia's not that good. I'm sorry. Listen, I don't want to come. I know Georgia beat Texas and Austin. I know that that was not a pretty game by this offensive line and the. Yeah. I don't see that. I don't see this Texas offense giving up 7 sacks. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think Georgia was definitely up for the game for sure.
Yeah, you can now put that down as an anomaly, right?
Yeah.
And again, Texas is very good when they're not playing at home. They've won 11 straight games, true road games, right? And they haven't done that on these neutral site games either. So,
right.
And by the way, that Michigan win that we went into.
Oh yeah, they ended up beating Ohio State. Yeah,
that's all of a sudden an impressive win, right? Because Ohio State, the number 2 team in the country, couldn't even accomplish that. So. But the number 3 team in the country in Michigan could. So yeah, you can again move the goalpost. Well, that's a rivalry game. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. That's not our problem. That's Ohio State's problem. Because if I was Ohio State, Ryan Day would have been fired too.
Right.
But that's clearly not going to happen because they're going to see how well he does in the playoffs. But I think for Texas to validate. And again, I don't care what the national media thinks. We've posted what the national media thinks about Texas, and you guys go to our Twitter. We'll Billy Lucci and SEC Mike. Shout out to those guys. We think they're great people. But hey, when you have a bad take like they did, it's a bad take, and you're going to get exposed.
Yeah, that was really, really bad take that they had. That's absolutely. First off, I didn't even know that they made it because at that time they made it in 2022.
Made it in 2022, and again, I
had this after the announcement that Texas was going to the SEC.
Correct. This is not only was it after that, it was after the 8-4 season. Right. So and they dropped the last couple games to not make it to the Big 12 title.
Right.
This is after that season. And SEC Mike was convinced that Sark didn't see the transition. So not only did he see the transition, he in year 1 is the transition, if you will, right? He is the transition,
right?
But yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see how things come out. Talking about the game and just kind of wrapping that up. I think the one thing about Quinn, and you mentioned that he hasn't had that moment. I think he's had a lot of different moments. I don't think he has that play that people are like, man, this is the guy, right?
Right. I would
He
say that.
has had that play. I think the play, and you know what? The locker room is sold on Quinn Ewers,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. They
So
backed him up.
as long
Listen,
as that's there, that's all you need.
outside of health, I think Quinn is a very good quarterback,
I
and
think that's the reason why he's not elite is his health.
that's the
Because
only reason
anytime that you feel like he's making progress, like
he
dude,
gets injured.
he gets hurt. He was even in that UTSA game, he was cooking.
Yeah.
And then he gets hurt, and then it's like,
Mhm.
dang, now he had to go through this process again, right? And then he starts to cook again against Florida.
Right.
And then the ankle thing occurs. And it's like, oh, now what's gonna happen? Right? Like if he doesn't get hurt last week against Kentucky, I think he finishes that game off great,
Yeah.
right? And I think he absolutely decimates this A&M defense because I think the most impressive thing about Quinn from yesterday is the fact that he was able to accurately throw the ball deep down the field. He
Oh,
did
it
it
was
twice.
so good.
His
Oh,
deep
it
ball
was so good.
accuracy yesterday on a bum ankle was phenomenal.
I don't know
Those
what it
are the
was.
moments that you take, and those are like, okay, this he could do just enough to win.
Yeah.
Those are the throws that you're going to have to make in December.
Yeah.
Those are the throws that you're going to have to make to win a national title, and those are the things that I think are going to help him help us win this national title because we've got some very experienced wide receivers, some very good wide receivers. I hope Isaiah Bond. We need to win this game so that Isaiah Bond can have another rest.
Yeah.
Because a healthy Isaiah Bond going into this playoff push is
Yeah.
going to be very critical.
And you could tell yesterday that he was not healthy. There was some instances where
mental weird stuff.
There was some instances where him and Quinn, who are usually on, they're in sync with each other very well. But yesterday was just off. Quinn throws to the sideline, and Isaiah Bond takes an in route, and the ball is overthrown and it's thrown out of bounds. And it looked like it was like a quick pass, maybe even somewhat of a.
Well, it looks like Bond was supposed to take an out route. Quinn thought he was going out because that's the route combination.
Right.
Bond comes in, and so now it's a critical third down, right? And that's a third down where you could probably end the game, right? So there's one. There's the D ball earlier in the game. The first D ball Quinn throws. He actually layers it very well in between the safety and the corner.
Yeah.
Bond stops his route. That's why it just kind of fell flat to the ground.
Yeah.
Because it looked like there were two guys there, but he actually layered it pretty well.
Right.
Bond stops the route, and I think that's Bond's help.
Right.
He's probably dusting those receivers. And I hope
for sure. If he's 100%, I feel like he is. But
that would have been a catch of some sort and maybe a touchdown. So I think Quinn is doing. I think that Quinn first half Quinn and listen, even second half Quinn was pretty good. It's just
second half Quinn was good. It was just that one throw. I think there was
there's nothing you can do about the tip pass, right?
I do worry about his pocket awareness when it comes to blitzing defensive backs, because there was 2 times where Quinn really got rocked pretty hard.
Yep.
One from a defensive lineman, another one from a defensive back. I wonder about that at times, but the plays almost kind of looked dead. So it was very freaky. It was a very weird a very weird combo of plays that happened. So I don't necessarily know. Maybe they would. I'm definitely for sure that they had film today and they were able to pick up on that and stuff like that. But again, kudos to those guys. They did really good in closing. I think that this is something that should shut up media, but it hasn't really. We'll find out more tomorrow. So it's a number of things. So again, shout out to those guys, and I really look forward to next week. I think if they're able to do what they need to do, or do what they've done within these last couple of weeks, I think Georgia's in for a real fight for real.
Yep. Hayes Bossett tweeted an hour ago that Micah Hudson officially plans to enter.
Say that again. You faded.
Hayes Bossett tweeted an hour ago that Micah Hudson plans to enter the
Go get him.
So,
Go get him.
I mean, obviously a lot of A&M's going to be after him. OU is going to be after him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Especially with roster spots increasing to 105.
Yep.
And you've got the salary caps. Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot going on there. So
Yep.
we'll obviously keep track of it. Any final thoughts on the game?
No. Again, they went in. They ran the ball. They were able to put the ball in the air and get deep chunk plays. I wish they were able to get out of there injury free, but in a rivalry game, that's expected. It's gonna be a fight. So it gives me a lot more confidence coming out that they can hang with offensive like juggernauts, that they can get in there and they can scrap and play physical and hit and still get in there, run the ball, and get out of there. And that's exactly what Texas was able to do, minus some injuries. So kudos to them. A&M, if they keep this kid Reed, he is going to be a problem in the future. If they're able to develop him and he stays and doesn't transfer, he's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and look, listen, I'm not a big fan of A&M. I mean, obviously they're a bunch of weirdos, and I've acknowledged.
Yes,
but
they are.
Mike Elko, get one game away from the SEC title game in his first year. He's recruiting very well. We'll see what year 2 looks like, right? Obviously, we went the opposite side of things. We'll see what recruiting looks like and see how things go. But yeah, and kudos to that program and great job for them. Being able to get as close as they did to the SEC title game. But look, Texas is the one team that didn't let a bad loss impact them all season.
Right.
They do. After yesterday, I'm convinced that they are the second best team in the country. You could argue they are the best team in the country, but Oregon obviously being undefeated, being able to beat Ohio State, and no bad losses, couple close calls, no bad losses.
Couple close calls for sure, yeah.
The only team to go undefeated. So tip your hats off to Oregon. Mm-hmm. I will see you guys Thursday nights for our normally timed show, 8:30 p.m. Central. We break down the SEC title game. Of course, I'll be in Dallas watching it from Cosm, which is a really cool thing. I'll show you guys what that looks like if you guys have never heard of it. Between now and then, my name is Harish. This is my guy on this side, Tim Wayne. Get out of here. Peace.
So, Gabriel.